If you'd like to be turning to Mark chapter 5, that's where our devotional will be found tonight. Mark chapter 5. How many of you share a book with your spouse or significant other during worship on a regular basis? Everybody uses your own book? We're more in love than most of them. I just do what? So a Bible you don't. The song book is heavy. Have you noticed this? And you have to decide who holds it up. And as we were singing tonight, I felt like Moses because I was holding up the book and Becky kept holding up my arm to hold up the book. So it was kind of that, up on the mountain, we're going to win kind of thing. But anyway, just thought we'd talk for a few minutes about demons tonight. Totally unrelated. You hate to say your wife and then say demon in the next sentence. You shouldn't do that. This last week, I've run across the subject no less than 4 times. And so I thought, let's just use this for our devotional thought tonight. Early in the week, I taught on the subject of Jesus' power over the spiritual realm in Jesus in the New Testament. And we talked about Jesus casting out demons. On the retreat, we talked a little bit about demons. The ladies' class, the women's class at the college group, has talked recently about demons and angels. So it's just constantly been popping up. So I thought I would spend just a few minutes telling you what little I know about demons, but we can gather a lot of it from this text. So if you will, read with me, Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes, and when Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with chain. He had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart, broke the irons off of his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. And he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside, and the demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off, reported this to the town and the countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told all about the pigs as well. The people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed began to beg with him. He wanted to go with him. Jesus would not let him, but said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how the Lord has had mercy on you." And so the man went away and began to tell it in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. Now, with very slight differences, this account is given in Matthew as well. In Matthew, we see 2 demon-possessed men, but the name is also Legion. The pigs are there, so it's a parallel story, probably the same story told from a slightly different perspective. But we're going to deal with Mark tonight. I want us to talk for a few minutes about this man's demons. Now, I don't know all I would like to know about demons, about the demonic realm, about how Satan controls them, where they came from, or where they're going. But some things I can share with us about what this man's demons had going on for them. The first one is that demons tortured their host. The fact that this man was inhabited by demons meant that his life was horrible. He was cutting himself with stones. He was out of his mind. He was unable to control himself or be controlled by anybody else. And so this man was in a horrible situation. We find out later on that when the people come out to see him after he's been cured, that they're surprised about 2 things: that he is clothed and in his right mind. So evidently this man rarely wore clothing. He cut himself with stones. He lived in the tombs. He was absolutely in torture in his life. And so that's what the demons did for him. Secondly, these demons banded together Where you had one demon, you had several demons. In this case, they say, we are legion, because there's a lot of us. And when Jesus cast them out into the pigs, we've got 2,000 pigs who are massacred all at once. That's a lot of demons. Don't know whether there were 2,000 demons or whether they controlled the herd by just a few of them inhabiting more than one pig apiece, but all of them rushed down and were killed in the lake. So these demons worked together. They banded together. They had a common cause together. Third, they knew Jesus. When Jesus gets out of the boat and this man spots him with his physical eyes, those beings that are on the inside of him knew who was coming. And they ran and they fell down at Jesus' feet. So immediately we have a response from the demons. They knew exactly who Jesus was, which is kind of interesting to me because his disciples did not yet really understand who he was. The crowds who were following him for his miracles didn't really understand who he was. But here is the opposing team. Here are the demons under the oversight of Satan. They know exactly who Jesus is. There's not a doubt in their mind. And they were afraid of him. They feared Jesus because they knew what Jesus could do. They knew what their ultimate outcome would be. You know, I said I'd like to know where Satan got them, what he uses them, how he used them, how he uses them, and where they're headed. I'd like to know all those things. They had no secret about that. They understood exactly what could happen to them if Jesus so desired. Please don't torture us before it's time. Now, we've been torturing this guy before his time, but we don't want you to torture us before our time. So they were afraid of Jesus. And then finally, they were no match for Jesus. And they knew it. They were terrified of him. As the people were terrified of the man with the demons were terrified of Jesus. And they began to negotiate immediately with Jesus to try to get him to do something different than what they were expecting him to do, which was to send them off into what they call the abyss, maybe the waiting place of evil spirits for final judgment. I don't know. But they were terrified, and they knew that they were no match for Jesus. Well, let's just kind of euphemize here. We'll say, what about our demons? Now, obviously, we're not inhabited by evil beings. We're not controlled by Satan beyond our will. But all of us have things in our lives that we have to deal with that are kind of outside sources that are doing things in our lives that we don't want, that we wouldn't do if we were really in control of the situation. And so we'll just call them demons for short. They torture our lives, don't they? A lot of different things. Habits that we can't seem to break. Friendships that we broke that we wish we hadn't. Things that we say that we wish we could unsay. Things that torture our lives. Physical ailments and problems that we have. Sinful behavior that we've been working on but can't seem to get rid of. We all have things in our life that we wish we could control but haven't quite been able to up to this point. They tend to mount up. Just like this man had legions of demons in his life. Sometimes if we open the door just a crack and let one bad habit in and we can't seem to overcome that, then it kind of brings in some friends with it, doesn't it? And we escalate and we have more problems because we haven't been able to deal with the one problem we had in the beginning. Financial problems, they tend to snowball, don't they? Friendship problems, marriage problems, they tend to snowball. We have one little one, we can't quite get that taken care of, and before we know it, we've got a whole big problem. Just keeps getting bigger. So sometimes if somebody asks you, what seems to be the problem, the answer to the question might be, it's legion. There's a lot of problems. Got a lot of things going on in my life right now. Let me give you just a for instance that all of us are praying about and thinking about. It's not good to be a Tomberlin this week, We love the Tomberlins, but this has been a tough week for the Tomberlins. Every facet of their family life has been turned upside down in the last week. And so keep praying for them, keep encouraging them. But when bad things happen, sometimes bad things happen in numerous quantities. And so sometimes our demons are legion. But they're no match for Jesus. In the end, Jesus always wins. Having Jesus in our life, having Jesus as our Savior, giving ourselves to the Lordship of Christ changes things. And when this man came, even though he was driven by demons to do so, and fell at the feet of Jesus Christ, what he needed was delivered because he couldn't do anything about it, but Jesus could. Jesus is not unable to deal with any of our problems. If Jesus could deal with the demons in that man's life, as big and as bad and as bold as they were and as many as they were, can Jesus not do much more with the problems that we have in our life? We're not talking about huge spiritual wickedness in our lives. We're talking about just a myriad of problems that human beings have to deal with. Is Jesus have the power to deal with the problems in our life? Here's a final thought. If even these demons are no match for Jesus, as powerful as they may have been, why do you think that your problems are too much for the Son of God? Your sin is not too much. Your shame is not too much. Your problems are not too much. They are no match for Jesus. So keep that in your heart. Think about it this week. Pray about it this week. Whatever problem it is that's eating at you, whatever thing in your life has mounted up and gotten control of you, Jesus is bigger than your problem. His salvation